Hey everybody, as promised, I have the Deconstruction workbook, Unculture Yourself, a workbook for reclaiming your mind. I'm traveling right now, so I don't have a copy of Culting of America, but this is the companion to Culting of America, and I think maybe the most useful part, right? We talk about deconstruction. What is it, right? I talk about it takes 10 years to deconstruct a worldview, an ideology that maybe a cult has given you. And what does that look like? So my co-author and I went through our book. We said, well, if we're saying these 10 parts are what makes a cult, then we're going to walk you through deconstructing those 10 parts. And since I recently had the crack in my ideology of being a Swifty, I decided I was going to use my workbook to deconstruct Swiftianity. Now, there's an important point. You're not deconstructing the cult. You're deconstructing the ideology that you were given. So am I saying that being a Swifty is a cult? No, it's in the language, being a Swifty, being a Christian, being a Muslim. I no longer believe the world according to Taylor Swift, and I need to deconstruct why I was that way for 20 years, because it's so important to me. So here we go. There is an introduction that tells you what this is for. Okay, first we have our nice list of what makes a cult there in the cover. Tells you what this workbook is for. At the very end, I think, is my most important line. If you think you are in a cult, I believe you. You can go through this book with anything in mind. So the first section is charismatic leadership. Charismatic leaders captivate people with their charm and confidence. They inspire devotion and often become the centerpiece of a group's identity. They claim to see what you can't. They offer clarity in chaos, and they make you feel like you belong to a story that matters. However, this magnetism can blur boundaries, so followers may overlook red flags and surrender their personal agency. Once you give up your agency, you stop steering your own life. You're just along for the ride, wherever the leader decides to take you. Charismatic leaders are especially dangerous because their magnetism can inspire such fierce emotional loyalty that followers stop questioning their ideas, tie their identities to the leader rather than to shared principles, and gradually learn to justify anything, even violence, as necessary and righteous. Okay, so the first prompt. Think of a leader you've admired deeply, past or present. What qualities made them so compelling to you? Were these qualities more about who they were, what they accomplished, or how they made you feel? And so I wrote Taylor Swift. I don't think I ever saw her as a leader so much as an alternate version of me. The me I could have been without all my childhood trauma and having to fight for every single thing. I was really drawn to her ability to perform, because I have that, to her writing, because I have that, and to the way she seemed to not care how much others made fun of her. She was going to tell her truth. And I think those are some cool things about her. But it was definitely about how it made me feel, right? When I first heard Tim McGraw, her first song, I was 18 years old. I was so alone in the world. I literally probably had not one person who would care if I was dead or alive, other than my mom in a completely other country in a cult somewhere, right? And I was not a princess. My life was not a fairy tale, but I could look like that. And that's when I started going really hard after being a basic white girl, because that's what I thought I was supposed to be, to try to fit into this country that I'm not from, and to try to act like a real person, which I think when most of us get out of cults, we don't feel like we are people. Because as Margaret Singer says, a cult is the antithesis of a structure in which a human can fully develop. Okay, I have a second part, because I didn't make the video on the first day. So have you ever followed someone, a boss, teacher, influencer, political figure, spiritual leader, who made big promises that felt almost magical? What did they promise? Did they deliver? Were there any red flags you ignored? And I think this is important, because anytime you're in a leadership relationship, leader, follower, influencer, whatever, you are being promised something, right? So I just wrote here, the man, in exclamation points, right? This is why I feel so personally betrayed by Taylor. I feel like she promised us in so many ways that if we, her obsessive fans, got her to the top, she would then use that power and privilege to fight the man for all of us. And instead, she just became the man. And my question still for myself is, why did I ignore the red flags? It's not that I didn't see them. And we see this very often in the stories of people joining cults and adopting their ideologies, right? It's that they saw the red flags, they clocked them. They just either talked themselves past them or allowed themselves to be talked past them. And this is, so I did see the flags. I just made excuses for her and gave her the benefit of the doubt, like we white people love to do for other white people that we probably shouldn't. And this, by the way, is called the deification of idiosyncrasy. That is the name for our desire to make excuses for the inexcusable behavior of our charismatic leaders. And are we going to have that in the musical? Yes. It's going to be part of the Cell Block 6 Tango parody. Even if he did it, doesn't mean he's guilty, and he'll never have to pay. It's the deification of idiosyncrasy, and he'll never have to pay. So, yeah, I have done deification of idiosyncrasy before in my life. We probably all have. I don't think I've ever done it as much as I did it for Taylor Swift. And I think this is one of the things that always bothered people about Swifties, is the making excuses for anything she does. And part of that was because I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I wanted her to be someone like me, which is to say someone who is trying to do good and do better. And I don't think she is, unfortunately. Anyway, check out Unculture Yourself workbook, linked up there. You can get it right now, only in a package with the book. Oh, and look, I forgot. You can get the book right there. Use someone else's phone to scan this. Yay!